for joining us today for today's AGM webinar. I'm delighted to introduce our speaker today. She is a familiar face to many of you as she's presented several webinars for us this year. We are delighted to have Nicole Leinbach Hoffman, who will be presenting Marketing on a Dime, 10 Ideas to Get Customers to Your Pro Shop. Nicole Leinbach is the founder of Retail Minded, which has supported retailers across all categories since 2007. With a core concentration on independent retailers, small businesses, community, and how the various touchpoints of commerce influence modern merchants, Nicole is a frequent guest and contributor to various media outlets that have included The Today Show, Forbes, Entrepreneur.com, and countless B2B publications. Additionally, Nicole has supported American Express's Small Business Saturday as a spokesperson and is the author of the book Retail 101, The Guide to Managing and Marketing Your Retail Business. From McGraw-Hill. Nicole has also spoke for Callaway Golf and other prominent brands and is a passionate, though very amateur, golfer. In 2022, Nicole was recognized as one of Women's Wear Daily's 25 most inspiring women in retail and has been on the list of the world's most influential retail leaders from Rethink Retail since 2021. She's a mom of 4 with 3 dogs and also a professor at Columbia College where she teaches retail marketing. You can learn more about Nicole at retailminded.com. Nicole, thank you again for joining us for another webinar this year, and I will turn it over to you now.
Yes, thank you guys. It's always good to be with you guys. I travel quite a bit and always enjoy golf courses and golf pro shops for various reasons, but it's fun taking pictures and doing all those things too with you guys. So you're always on my mind more than you might realize. So it keeps me fun. Keeps it fun for me. So today we're going to talk about marketing on a dime, 10 ways to get customers into pro shops. So I really do dive into the dime part of this. So we all know that budgets can be tight, restrained, limited, stretched, however you might look at that. And so I want to talk about ways you can truly dive into marketing on a dime. Now, those of you who have tuned in before know that I like to usually share some sort of definition, not just my opinion, but definition of what marketing is or whatever we're discussing. And just as a reminder, marketing is the process of communicating the value of a product or service to customers. So from a customer perspective, that's truly understanding and identifying who you are. But to you, it also means that identifying and understanding who your customers are that allows you to better understand how to market to them. So everything we're going to go through today is going to be a snapshot. And I do need to challenge you to realize that only your customer best, because one golf pro shop might be different than another golf pro shop, but you can take the same concept or idea and customize that to work with your unique audience, with your unique pro shop standards. So do challenge yourself to have that perspective. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So tip number 1, we want to encourage check-ins or tags on social media sites. Now, everybody here is very familiar with social media. We're not going to go on to the depth of how to use social media, but I want you to take this to one more level and realize that for every time someone's tagging you, or so when I say tag, they're putting that little round sign and tagging you, the about sign, and putting your handle. You don't just recognize it, but people in their feed see that as well. That's how the algorithms of social media work. So this becomes marketing through their extension. It also helps boost your extension within social media, again, due to algorithms, because the more people who are tagging you, the stronger you're going to show up in other people's feeds who are already following you as well. So there's an actual science behind this. But in addition to the science, I want to encourage you to get those tags, get people to check in, but also for every time they're doing it, on site in your shop, and you would potentially use a sign to share this or have your staff or team communicate this, offer a thank you as an incentive. So you want to actually take it one step further and incentivize that for that. So an example of this would be for every Facebook check-in or tag, get a free bucket of balls, or tag us on Instagram for an instant in-store discount, or snap and chat with us and we'll give you a promo for a future pro shop credit, right? You want to leverage this opportunity to, again, push your business into their social media feed and yours, but also so that they're going to be incentivized and feel like it's not just about you, but it's also about them. So look to your own inventory. Maybe you have things that you have I know in my local pro shop, they have this like great basket in front of where we check out, and it's basically like a mosh pit of different things. It's like the single hat that's left, or the single golf cover, or the single pair of socks. And it's not always like merchandised. It's more if you have to go through and see, but it's fun and it's an adventure. Maybe there's something like that you can do with the budget or scale of what that is smaller, and maybe that becomes a giveaway. So there's a lot of different things you can do here, but the challenge is make sure you're pushing that check-in or tag on social media. And it's not just the three that I was sharing, which was your Facebook, your Snap, and Instagram. You also have TikTok. You also have what formerly Twitter is now X, even Pinterest. So lean into what you currently have an active audience on. And this is where you want to make sure you're encouraging that engagement. The key is to be in social, you actually have to be social. So if you're encouraging being tagged, reply to that tag. If someone tags you, the conversation may have been encouraged in the store, but later react to that tag, say something, ask questions, say, I hope you enjoyed your day, or that hat looked really great on you if they made a purchase. Make sure that you're consistently leveraging social media for conversation. That truly is the key, because when you're using social media, it's pushing people to your store for either visibility or actual sales, and that's what leads you ultimately to transactions. Or sometimes social media allows them to then immediately want to spend and then come to your store. So it's just that constant rotation that needs to stay top of mind. The next tip I'll share here is to lean into your vendors and business partners. Now, I know that as pro shops, you have a lot of different types of people you can be working with. You can actually lean into your vendors, such as like Callaway, but also let's look at who your community partners are. Who are nearby businesses that might be like-minded but non-competitive? What about the golf pros, your local schools that are bringing in their high school teams for practicing or other reasons? Sometimes even the restaurants attached or nearby to your golf pro shop often have things going on that you can lean into as well. The goal of this is that you're going to increase your visibility among existing customers, but potential customers. You can also create exciting opportunities for these same customers, deliver different types of experience through the collaboration and partnership of this. You can even work with these groups to create regular events, or you may just a one-of-a-kind event to your calendar. And we'll talk about events in a little bit more later. And then, of course, welcome new ways to generate sales. That really is the goal here. So to take this another step further, so if you were to invite vendors and partners to, let's say, host a special event, not just at your course, but in your actual pro shop, maybe in combination with your course space. You could do a limited edition item sale. You could have community programs. You could do something with seasonal inventory. School events might want to lean into your store. I know in a nearby community, not my immediate community, that their golf team, my son, by the way, made JV golf this year. So I've been going to lots of different pro shops just to cheer him on and his team. And we were at one recently, and what they did was they actually had a fundraiser in the pro shop while a bunch of high school teams were there that day. So the way that it worked was if you purchased something in the pro shop, there was going to be a portion donated to a certain charity that was aligned with this. I think it was actually in memory of someone who had passed, which, you know, charities often are aligned with things with sentiment, but get creative with how you can work with your local schools and, again, your pro shop to create these unique opportunities that encourage sales. Okay, so it's not like you're giving all that money away, you're also keeping some for yourself, of course. But product knowledge, even meet and greets. And this could be like your PGA junior team coming in, come meet your local high school players or your pro shops or your pros, golf pros. So there's a lot of different things. And then the partnering with like-minded but non-competitive businesses is a great way for you guys to be seen somewhere else. Maybe your pro shop is a pop-up pro shop in a nearby restaurant, and you're behind the counter and nobody can touch it, but they can see you've made this great display. Maybe it's patio season coming up where you live, and certainly it's not for everyone. We have winter here, but let's use patio season as an example. And you create like a dynamic display somewhere that's highlighting your pro shop and the style and the clothing and the different things you have. It's not just about golfing, right? It's about all the pieces that bring that to life. So get creative within your community. Think where is within a mile of your destination that would be let's say again, non-competitive, but like-minded customers. Is it a yoga studio? Maybe you want to work with the women's only thing. It could even be like an insurance agency. There's so many different ways you can get creative here. And part of this is just working with someone who's willing to get creative with you and wants to brainstorm and have that sort of challenge themselves to be promoted within your space for their business. So you do have to work together. These are some various examples over the years that I've collected. Again, you would have to say what makes sense for you. Do pet photos in your pro shop make sense? That could be a really fun thing, right? If I'm sure there's a lot of people who shop with you that they have two great loves in life, golfing and their dogs, right? So you never know. So there's a lot of different things. I love the coloring contest idea because you can be handing out blank sheets of paper with some great, not totally blank, you would have something black and white already created for encouraging families to have their kids color this. Maybe that creates one of your windows and you bring it in. So they collect it during the month of October, they bring it back during the month of November for a big Thanksgiving week of festivity that your local community has created. But you go one step further and you encourage them to tell their grandparents and to tell everybody else and come vote for your favorite piece of coloring contest art. And you're pushing people into your store through that dialogue. So there's lots of different ways that you can get creative, again, on a dime. That doesn't seem like it makes sense with necessarily golf, but you do know what it does make sense for? Community and your customers. And that's who you're really speaking to here. You're speaking to your community, your customers, and you're trying to engage them. Other fun things are photo contests. You can do things that just create, you can use social media, but also in-store share this messaging. Maybe there's a great photo contest that you encourage your customers to do while they're on the course. Or maybe they've purchased something from your pro shop and you want to use that for that to be a part of the contest. So think what might make sense and then again, put it into action. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. This is another great example of how somebody said, win this t-shirt, tag a photo of you and your cookie, and you can win. It doesn't have to be a t-shirt. It could be whatever you want, but you can say, take a t-shirt wearing something from our pro shop or a picture, tag us for a chance to win. So there's always just different ideas of how you can engage your audience and potential audience on a dime. The next tip I want to share here is using your words. I always like to say this is a lesson from toddlers because the reality is we all know toddlers love to chat. Sometimes it doesn't always make sense, but there's no shyness. There's a lot of words that typically come up with them. You want to speak up, start conversations, encourage chit chat about your businesses. This is really the goal. I think all of us, can often become complacent because we just assume people know. We know so much about the work we do, the space that we're in, the stores that we support, that sometimes we forget others don't. They might not realize that you sell socks in addition to shoes. They might not realize that you have visors in addition to hats. There's so many different depths of what this could mean for your business. So consider how you can use your words. And there's so many ways to do that. You can become an expert by starting a blog on maybe you're passionate about the styling of golf attire. Maybe you're passionate about golf itself. Maybe you're passionate about customer service and relating to your customers in an athletic-based environment. There's so many different things here. You can push that into newsletters, just sharing insight. It doesn't have to be a blog, but you could offer like a quarterly newsletter that's only 4 times a year. But if you really want to challenge yourself, maybe once a month or every other week. There's a lot of things to share through content alone. We already talked about social media, but make sure you're using that consistently so you don't get too lost in their feeds or the algorithms of social media quietly push you away if you just don't ever use it consistently. And of course, store signage. You want to be where you always are not. Even as consumers are navigating your pro shop, let the signage help support your store. This will increase store sales because it's going to encourage interaction with product engagement. Handwritten thank you notes, those never go out of style. I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly writing handwritten thank you notes. I can probably lean over here in my office drawer. Yep, here we go. And I have a variety that are just always ready to be written, folded, and the stamps are ready to go. So I think if you make it convenient for your team potentially to do as part of maybe maybe if someone buys a golf bag, or if there's a higher purchase made, or maybe you identify anything over $300, this is where you quantify or justify saying, hey, that requires a handwritten note as a thank you to the customer. These are simply actions that mean a lot to your customers, and that's what's going to ultimately lead to repeat loyalty from consumers, also word of mouth marketing, which we'll talk about later. So you also want to spread the word about your business. So seek local press from newspapers and more. A lot of your local media is looking for good stories. So that's something to think about too. Like, what story can you tell your local media that they would want to write about? And of course, email marketing. Give customers a reason to care. And we'll put a little bit more depth to that later. So leverage others to help. You also want to lean in through words, again, interns throughout the year. Do you have high school interns, potentially college kids? What can they do? Can they help you write that newsletter? Can they help you create store signage? If you feel like you're stretched for the time, and that's what a lot of stores tell me, so this is why I share this, think about who is already in your network that can help you do some of these things. The other thing is to have a task list for your slow days that identifies some of these marketing on a dime goals that you have, and make sure that you can just identify it and check it off. Out of sight is truly out of mind. So if you put it in sight, you have that list readily available, you're going to be more likely to do it. And then ask your team what they might want to do. You might have some strengths hidden underneath the other responsibilities of your team existed at your store already that can share with you ways to deliver on these marketing strategies, again, on a dime, and listen to their ideas. And push those conversations into your community. Signage is a great way to use this, but not just in your store. Consider how signage in your community can bring visibility to your pro shop. Is it at your local library? Is it on your local main streets? Is there a newsletter that potentially your Chamber of Commerce has? These are just ways to interact in your community to bring visibility to your brand. Doesn't always mean you have to advertise though. So look for the ways that you can list, for example, upcoming events. A lot of communities allow you to do that for free on their Chamber of Commerce page. So look for ways that you can affordably, or ideally for free, and many of which this is, create exposure into your community. And of course, I want to dive a little bit further into email blasts because this is still the #1 driver of digital commerce. So even if people aren't purchasing online, they might discover you online and then ultimately come to your pro shop because they found you online. So that's the goal here. Your email blast can talk about, of course, styling, golf tips, upcoming events, but you want to make sure that you're consistently doing this so that your customers get used to and look forward to hearing from you about that. The catch truly is consistently making these efforts a priority. When you are consistent, your customer becomes loyal and understanding, and they expect to hear from you. If you stop that consistently, they ultimately will lose thought of you. They're not going to keep you top of mind. And ultimately, that's how you get dismissed in people's choices. Being proactive, proactive is what will ultimately lead to profit here. So think of communication as a way to proactively lead to profit. Our next tip #4 is to support internal communications. So very often we hire our teams, we are putting people within our store pro shops that represent us, whether you're there or not. And you need to recognize that these are the same people that are going to ultimately be talking about you when they go home. What are they saying? Are they talking about the feel good feeling that they get when they walk into your pro shop? Or are they talking about maybe the cattiness among employees? Are they talking about the weaknesses or the strengths for that matter of management? Are they frustrated with some of the operations? You want to make sure that your employees are true ambassadors of your business, okay? Not only are they interacting with your customers, but when they leave your store, they're still representatives of who you are because they work for you. So we don't want to underestimate just how valuable our employees are to the success of our pro shops. I'm sure all of us can relate to experiences where we've walked in any store, whether it's a pro shop or not, and nobody gives us attention or the time of day. And we can't be so fooled to think that might not happen in our own places. So think about how your employees can be nurtured so that you can ultimately put confidence in the fact that they're supporting your pro shop effectively. So internal communications is a great way to do that because it does ultimately lead to that external marketing of your business. Employee management, store and product trainings, team building. Ultimately, all these things can talk about referrals, whether they're telling a friend you should work here or you shouldn't work here, or they're telling somebody, oh, you have to come to my store, you should see this great new arrival of inventory we just got. So it does lean into marketing more than you realize. So look to your teams and realize what can you do. Some of the best practices for employee management will ultimately be offering employee reviews. You want to, at minimum, do that quarterly, or biannually, twice a year. But many pro shops and businesses in general to do it once a quarter, just to keep that heightened sense of, hey, I'm important, feel good to the employees. Store manuals are a great thing to do as well. These are training guides. They offer a handbook and a hand guide for that matter to what your employees should do so they're not lost on these things. This is, again, we talked about out of sight, out of mind. If you put that manual somewhere that they can reference daily, maybe even tracking certain other things in there, they feel like the expectation of what they need to do is stronger and they're more likely to get everything done. That also leads us to procedures and checklists. What are your standards of your store? What are your expectations? Make sure your team knows. You want to have an open line of communication because, again, the employees of your business are the ambassadors of your business. They're the ones representing you, whether you recognize it or not, in a positive light and sometimes and hopefully never in a negative light. You want to also talk about how you can strengthen your employees through additional training, maybe even give hands-on product experiences so they can more authentically talk to your customers. These are the people that are heightening the sales in your store. So what are you doing to make sure that they're giving their best effort to that interaction with your customers as well? You want to make these things fun, but of course, informative. And of course, having a friendly work environment, strengthening respect among your employees, even introducing activities to nurture employee relationships. So maybe you do something offsite. Maybe there's an annual holiday thing, but maybe once a year in the summer, you create a new tradition of something fun. So these team building experiences are what going to be on the top of your employees and teams' minds when they think about just the engagement in the team environment. When you have strong internal communication, it ultimately creates loyalty among employees, friendliness among your employees, increased word of mouth marketing, and ultimately more sales. There is so much data that shows that if your employee is happy, they're more likely to have stronger success for the business in which they work for. And this is why we can't overlook this when we talk about our marketing efforts for our stores. The next is embrace mobile experiences. Okay. How many of us, so if we can, let's see here. I know I can't see all of you, but many of us, our cameras are off. But if you want to put it on with us, how many of us can show our phone within a hand reach, literally within a reach? There you go. So many of us, right? So that is the same for our customers. And we have to figure out the best way to leverage that in your store. So the mobile experience is not just behind the scenes. When you are in a store environment, think about the last time you picked up a phone, you took a picture of something, you texted it to someone. Do you like this? Should I get this? What do you think? What color should I choose? It could be for any other reason. You might even narrow in on the price and be like, oh my gosh, look at this, it's on sale. Or you might be like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. So you want to make sure you're welcoming this. Years ago, people used to call this showroom shopping. That is way out the window. We don't do that anymore. We want to embrace it. And among the reasons is because while they're on their phone, they could also search anything else. They could look up and be like, hey, is this golf bag sold somewhere else? But we don't want them to do that, right? We want them to feel like there's a stay good moment and they want to spend in your store. So factor all these other things we're talking about today, put that in there, but also realize that we want to be aware of how our customers shop. So did you guys know that 80% of smartphone users will reference their phone while shopping in a store, whether it's to check a text message that maybe they received from someone, or maybe it's to check their work email because they're not supposed to be golfing, but they are, right? There's a lot of reasons why people are picking up their phones, but we have to be aware it's happening. 4 out of 5 users shop on their phones. And as we've talked about in past webinars I've done, that path to purchase is not straight. So they might have intended to buy, I know my local pro shop sells these like Lulu, this really small assortment of Lulu for golf. And my 2 daughters found out, guess what they do now? They shop there, which they can walk there versus waiting until mom drives them to the mall to go to Lulu. So that's a huge win to our little local golf pro shop, right? Because if every teenage girl did that in our neighborhood, that's a massive boost for them. So think about how you can get really creative. And by the way, the reason I tell you that story is because I took a phone once when I was in there, my picture with the phone said, I didn't know they sold Lulu here, but they do, to my Lulu loving daughters. And the next thing that weekend, they wanted to go for a walk there and check it out. So make sure you're leveraging the opportunity of phone so that ultimately it translates to customer experience. 65% of customers will actually leave a website if it's not mobile friendly. But it's not just your website, it's your store. And I'm going to give you an idea of how this works in 1 minute. If they're in your store, they're using their phone, maybe they're still working, maybe they're making a decision, maybe they're on social media tagging you because you've encouraged them to, and we want you to do that. Whatever it is, it's all collective. But this right here is what can allow your customers for you to actually collect information on them. If your pro shop or the facility that you're in does not offer strong Wi-Fi, or that you have, let's say, T-Mobile doesn't work well there, or you just want to do this because it's a very smart thing to do, cloud4y.com is a great way for you guys to actually gain customer data, create ongoing relationships with your customers, and support modern shoppers. So what it is, and you guys can check this out at your leisure later, you actually implement it. So when the way that like mobile and tech works, if someone's in a certain space, if I walk in there, if I go to my web to go on anything, it's gonna say, there's gonna be a little thing and it's gonna pop up and it will tell me, hey, compliments of Nicole's Pro Shop, you can get free Wi-Fi. Share your email here. And you can even ask like 1 or 2 questions, like 2 quick questions, please, and you can make them fun. Are you an amateur golfer or do you consider yourself semi-pro? Do you buy new clothes regularly for golf, or do you already have all the staples you need in your closet? You can do whatever it is that interests you to help you understand your customers better. But the best part is you've now collected their email address and their phone, depending on what we do. It could be the SMS marketing, you could choose. Now you get to stay in touch with them. But the next time they're at your store, they should be automatically able to capture that Wi-Fi as well. So if you have your regular customers, that's something they become familiar with. So there is a rhyme and reason to this. It's a really great way to be a part of consumer connectivity on a dime. So people like to shop where they feel comfortable, and I think that's ultimately the big takeaway here. So you want to make sure you're giving them a comfortable experience in their store, in your store, I should say. Tip number 6, make your business card a coupon or loyalty card. So this is definitely an old-fashioned tip, but I still love it. And let's see, show of hands here. And I know it's not all of you, but or use the chat box. Who here loves a good like loyalty or punch card or anything, whether it's from your local yogurt smoothie place, whether it's from your local dry cleaning? There's always ways that you can use this throughout any category of retail. And I think pro shops are one of the most underserved places that are using this, because I've been to a lot and I don't see it enough. So I would encourage you guys to make a card that becomes that loyalty incentive or coupon. These could easily be translated to golf balls here, right? Enjoy for every 10th purchase, get something free or get $15 to spend in your store. There's so many for every purchase over $10, maybe they get that. Or you have to think about the logistics and the math behind all of this, what makes sense for your business. But I will tell you right now, if I open my wallet and I have a handful of these that I always consistently keep in there, I'm going to go to them first before I go somewhere else, like if it's a competitive business, because I'm incentivized by that. As a consumer, I think it's pretty cool that I could get a cool or a free or something different after I hit that like 10th or 12th punch. So think about what makes sense for you guys and how you could do that. This is collect 9 stamps, and on your 10th visit, claim 1 free coffee and cake on us. I realize restaurants are doing this more often, but I feel like you can also incorporate this. You just have to think about what would work. Maybe you actually do talk to your restaurant. I know some pro shops operate totally independent from their restaurants, but you can still potentially have this sort of claim to say, hey, if you give them a free drink or coffee, whatever, like they could come back to you and say, we're only charging you $1 for that versus the normal $4. So you can still incentivize in partnership with the restaurant maybe, but there's a lot of ways. So this is where I challenge you guys to get creative with your stuff. You want to encourage repeat visits and loyal customers. So that's really the goal. Make sure too on that card, you're putting your handle. If you're on Instagram, you're putting your store hours. This is another thing to just make sure you're highlighting your business too. Don't forget to hand them out too wherever you are. It's not just for your customers walking in your store. This is going to be for when you're at school, work, play, neighbors, sporting events for the kids potentially, wherever you are, make sure you're sharing because this is pushing that marketing out into your community about who you are and what you do. The next is you want to turn your store into a classroom, okay? Very often we underestimate, I should say, how our actual physical environment can be used for something else. We talked about maybe you going into someone else's as a pop-up experience, but think about also what you can do in your own environment. Experiences will welcome selling opportunities. So we know that vendors can often come in and have something like a fitting day for clubs, but what else can you do that doesn't always lean into the vendors? What can you do where you're using your space to bring in opportunity for learning? You can have, of course, external instructors, local business leaders, other businesses to host experiences in your store. There's mom groups, there's young little kids who want to golf. There's actually even stores, businesses that cater to people who just want to be in the business of retail. Look at your local community college. Maybe you can challenge them to merchandise your windows displays or your actual slat walls, however it is, because that's bringing people in. There's so many different things you can do here, some of which you could charge, others could be for free. The goal is going to be increase your store traffic, visibility, and sales. So these are just completely random different things that exist out there, but I want you to see the range. You can lean into all the different types of customers you have. You might have working moms, you might have new moms, you might have high school students, you might have elementary age students, you have mature men who are retired. What can you do? What types of businesses would interest them? If you have space in your store and you have time during certain times of the week, maybe that are slower, that's going to be your ideal time to bring them into your space. Get creative, make it fun. This is a footwear store that had models walking around for the launch of their new product one night, and they had a DJ come in and did different things. So it's a fun way to get creative and just have some fun in your business. The next is to host a joint or solo auction event. So this is interesting, but if you look at your inventory, what's going on in your store, you can do something sometimes to not only help you clean out things, but also raise money. Or you can either give it to charity, or maybe you're looking forward to a revamp. Maybe you want to get your walls painted. Maybe you need new carpet. This is something that I've seen stores do over the past. That's a fairly affordable thing to do because you're leaning into what you already have and you're just using signage and social media and email marketing and a few fun things to bring this experience to life. So you can make it a one-day event, a multiple-day event, even 30 days long where people are just like you bid on an auction, you sign up who wins. So you can either move your inventory, fixtures, wall art, you name it, but they name the price, okay? So you can do this both collaborative in your store and online, or you could do it exclusively in your store. The logistics of it do not actually have to be too hard. Again, it's more about that communication, leaning into your audience and looking at, hey, how does this make sense for me? If anybody here knows that they have a refresh coming in their near future, so again, that update, painting, whatever it might be, these little auctions are actually a really fun way because a lot of people carry sentiment to your golf course, but also even your shop. So think about how what you might dismiss as no big deal, someone else might dismiss as like memorabilia that they look forward to having a part of their world. The next is you want to amplify your in-store signage, okay? So we've talked about signage in the past, and signage will continue to be among the most important things any store, whether you're a pro shop or not, can leverage. But the reason for this is that 1/3 of customers do not want to talk with you, okay? They actually want to get in there and enjoy the experience themselves, or for that matter, they just want to check something off their list. Like maybe they broke their club, they need a new club. Maybe they forgot their glove and they just need a new glove, whatever it is. Let the signage encourage product engagement. This is one of my favorite signs I've seen over the years. It says, pick me up. And it sounds so simple, but I sat there and observed it for a while. Everybody picked it up. Everybody. People would walk by and they'd just go by, and there was some lights, of course, too, and they'd pick it up. It had it not said pick me up, maybe nobody would have. But that's how signage can be powerful in a store environment. You can do something as simple as chalkboard sign, right? This is going to allow you to get change and make changes very easily. And you can speak to your customers without ever having to say a word when you're leveraging signage. You can even help educate and inform your customers. So in this case, it says stop and smell. So you want to make sure you're using signage in the right way so that your customers understand what is and is not. Now, this is just funny. I saw this once. It says shoplifting causes bad karma and weight gain, but you can have some fun in your store. What makes sense? And think about how signage can further support you in those marketing goals. And last but not least, for tip number 10, you want to support your existing customers versus always chasing new customers. Okay. 70% of business is done by repeat customers for a healthy retail environment. And if your store is not healthy and if you have the opportunity to improve, this is your goal. You want to retain 70% of your customers. You're always going to get those new customers depending on where your golf course is. You might be a tourist town, it might be a little bit swayed, but on average, this is the goal. We want to make sure that you're doing this through strengthening that loyalty we talked about. You can do the punch card. Potentially, you have a technology system that supports you there, but we're looking at marketing on a dime efforts here, right? You want to increase customer retention through that CRM. If you have it, use it. Make sure you're looking at the data. Lean into also point of sale data. If you guys already have these technologies in your system, the dime part here is the data. What happens is they exist, nobody's looking at the data. You're just using the technology. So start to look at the data that you've already invested in. It's going to bring clarity, and that clarity is going to allow you to make more profitable decisions in your future about inventory, about staffing, about time of day, work hours, everything. Another idea is to host monthly VIP in-store events for your regular customers. We want to nurture those people who are retained and coming to you again and again. And introduce a refer a friend program with incentives. If you have a customer and you want them, you know that they're golfing with others, they already have a great community around them, introduce a program that allows incentives to be given to them as a thank you for them talking about you. You ultimately want them to know that you appreciate their business and you truly care, because that really is the goal. So in doing that, all the things we talked about today, but other ways to help on a dime support that retention of customers. Continue to promote your events in your email signature. Are you taking the time on your email signature to change out what's coming up? If you have new arrivals, if you have some sort of special event, take that email signature and routinely change it. Because if you're blasting things out to people or emailing, this is a great way. What about trading website links or ads with area businesses to help gain more visibility? This goes back to your non-competitive but like-minded businesses. You can say, hey, I'm going to share and refer and encourage people to go to your new cookie shop, but can you do this? Tell your customers to come spend an afternoon shopping for their spring wardrobe or just in general their golf updates with me. Whatever that is, you need to provide the content to make sure it's on point with them. Sponsor a local youth team. That's not super on a dime, but I've heard of some sponsorships being as low as like $250, smaller communities even less. So you might want to look to see what might make sense. And if you don't want to do sports, think about other categories. You could even host a contest and seek local area businesses to help promote it. Maybe it's that coloring contest, maybe the coloring sheets, because that's a pretty affordable thing to do. What is it? You just want to get creative and then send out a press release to your media, become that expert. This will keep that retention of customers in your community, keeping you top of mind. So if you are at multiple touch points, they're going to see you, and that's going to be yet another reason for them to want to work with you. You can do the in-store events we talked about, or even affiliate marketing where you're working on your website if that's relative to your thing. Basically, think outside the box. That's really the goal here, guys. Retention isn't just about talking to your customer, it's about being where your customer is. And so be a part of your community, be a part of creative thinking so that you can be where your customers are. And I welcome any questions. I know it's a lot and I know I talk fast sometimes, but let me know what you guys think. Nicola says, do you have any specifics for marketing at a private club? That's a great question. For private clubs, and I have had the opportunity to go to a few. I was actually one in San Diego not long ago, which is a beautiful private club. I'm forgetting La Jolla area. I'm forgetting the name of it now. But I think that there's definitely the intimacy of being a private club that you have to respect. But retention is massive here because private clubs lean into retention, right? Because your members are your customers. So I think that giving them that VIP experience always is going to be there, but what else? I would actually ask them. I would send out a poll in your email marketing. I would ask them in store. I would train your staff to say, hey, do you belong to any local community groups? We welcome to have events here. Some private clubs allow that, some don't. But because they're members, they can bring people in sometimes. So that's another way to bring in, again, non-competitive, like-minded community groups potentially to your business. I would definitely encourage you to consider some sort of like activation in your store merchandising that highlights your members. Maybe you do a member profile, like you spotlight a member once a month. And maybe that spotlight includes some of their favorite finds from your store. So you come up with 10 questions for your members and you rotate that weekly or monthly and you're highlighting those things. But that it's fun. It creates dialogue. If I was a member, I would want to come in and see who's being spotlighted, right? Because that's a fun thing to get used to seeing. So I would lean more heavily into the actual members and the community of those members to see what can you do to boost that sort of engagement. I would also say when you guys are reflecting on how you can do things on a dime, I think the biggest thing is taking the push to do it because it's easier sometimes to not do some of these things, but the consistency does return itself over time. And I think that's going to be the other thing. And one thing I didn't really talk about today, but I probably should, is merchandising, marketing. There could be a whole hour just on merchandising, but when you look at merchandising, that is marketing in itself. So think about how you incorporate merchandising. Make sure you're doing it frequently, make sure you're changing things, make sure you're keeping it fresh and your community inspired by it as well.
Absolutely. So many great tips in there. So thank you, Nicole.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys. It was good to chat with you guys again.
Thank you so much, Nicole. This was terrific. I really enjoyed the tip for the loyalty punch cards. I think that would be really fun for golf balls. If you bought 10 dozen, after 10 punches, you get one free, something like that. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time out of your day to join us for today's webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at future AGM education and events. Take care, everyone.